What's up, guys? I'm back. Today we're going to be talking about a video that's been requested. It's the Trinity. Is it compatible with divine simplicity or not? I brought on a special guest today, Damian. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Tell them who you are.
Hello, hello everybody. My name is Damian. You guys may know me from ke2sy. I'm one of the mods there. I also like to answer people's questions in Scholastic Discussion, and I also have a YouTube channel of my own, hosting different debates, talking about the Trinity, divine simplicity, etc. And I'm very honored to be on here.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Yeah, guys. I'm gonna link down his channel down below, so go sub to his channel as well. But today has been requested. Obviously, is the Trinity compatible with divine simplicity? Many people might think it's not because there's many. Well, I don't know everyone's objections to it, but I think a common objection is that I thought divine simplicity entails no real distinctions in God or something like that. Damien, what are your thoughts on all these things, though? Go ahead and speak your mind, bro.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the biggest misconceptions is that we hold to as Thomists that every real distinction leads to some sort of composition. Obviously, this is not the case. Every real distinction does not lead to some sort of composition
Hmm.
because we pose real distinctions between the persons, right? Um, so first, we have to define what exactly divine simplicity is and what exactly composition is. So first, I'm going to define what divine simplicity is. So divine simplicity, simply speaking, is the idea that God is not composed of parts. He is one supreme substance, or in other words, God is not composed. Right.
Right.
Um. Now, what does composed mean? Because when we say if we say God is not composed, then we have to identify what he is not. I think that's very important. So composition, simply speaking, is the union of really distinct extremes. So for instance, there's a real distinction between body and soul, and these really distinct things come into union and compose one man. So now the fitting thing to do in this line of reasoning is we are going to apply this definition of composition to the Trinity to see whether or not the Trinity falls into that standard.
Right.
So so we take relations either in reference to each other or in reference to the divine essence. Now, in reference to each other, relations are not united, but instead they are opposed.
Mm.
So there's no composition there.
Correct.
However, relations in reference to the divine essence, they're also not united. Instead, they're really identified with it, right? Because we also believe via divine simplicity that every positive predication we make of God is really really identical to Him.
Mm. That's true. Yeah. I think the thing that happens here, I think Astro mentioned in one of the previous videos, is distinguishing between SA odd and SA in, right?
Mhm,
Um, and of course the relations would be SA odd in reference to another. Um,
mhm.
so like you said, they're opposed from one another. A relation is opposed to another person of the Trinity. So like you said, and they're really identified. They're not united to the divine essence. They're really identified with it. They are the divine essence, which is SAN, right? But um, with this being said, these real distinctions will not posit composition, as you just explained very well. So when people, I think, have this misconception of a real distinction entails composition, it depends what kind of real distinction you're talking about.
Right.
You know, for example, previously I was talking about the Muslim God, the Salafi God, the Athari, to be in particular. They have a real distinction between the essence and the attributes. That is composition because that real distinction does not posit a relational opposition. It doesn't.
Right.
So that would be composition. But in our view of the Trinity, it's just SA odd. So they're not opposing in a sense of composing something else. So I don't know if that kind of makes
Yeah.
sense. But
Well, okay. The reason why, and it's very simple to kind of see the difference here. The reason why we say, obviously, going back to what I said earlier, the reason why we say, for instance, that real distinctions between person doesn't lead to composition is because in the case in which these relations are really distinct, they're not unified to each other. We don't say that.
right,
However, if you were going to posit that there's a real distinction between God's essence and His perfections, and at the same time say that they're inseparable from each other, you are going to posit some sort of unification. So if you say that there's a real distinction between God's essence and His perfections, and at the same time you unify them, then they fall right into the definition of composition.
right.
they're absolutely symmetrical to each other, and not only can we just deduce that through the nominal definition, but we can also give a simple argument, right? So if you're going to say that uh, God's perfections are really distinct from His essence, then either God has the attribute of power in virtue to His essence, or He has the attribute of power in something other
In its
than His
essence.
essence.
Hmm.
Yeah, if it is in virtue of his essence, then you're simply just conceding to divine simplicity, right? Because
Absolutely.
you're going to have to posit that God has all these perfections by his divine essence, and hence all these perfections would have to be identical to his divine essence. However, if you are going to say that God has this attribute by this really distinct power, then you're going to also say that God has this thing by something other than himself, and therefore say that he is in potency to this really distinct power. So if you commit that God is in potency to these perfections, you're also going to say that he has a potential to actual relation. If he
Hmm.
has this, this entails some sort of change, and therefore this entails some sort of composition, right? So in that case, it certainly does lead to composition.
Right.
It
Correct.
certainly does. It does.
Yep, that's true. Also, another thing, if people want to learn more about like SA Odd and SAN, where would you recommend them to learn about it? I know John St. Thomas talks a little bit about it. I think,
The
yeah, go on, go on.
Yeah, so if you guys want to simply just learn about what a relation is, Grenier in his manual has a very cohesive section on it. He gets into what a logical relation is, what a real relation is, and then he branches down to what what a being in is and what being towards is, and
Hmm.
all four volumes of Grenier's manual is pretty good when it comes to giving definitions.
Right, right. Um, Another thing, if people, because I know a lot of these people may not know scholastic metaphysics, right? Um, what would be a good place to start? There's difference of opinion, and many people do want to know that as well.
Yes. So for the people who are not in Papacy Hub, the main book that we recommend to people who want to get into scholastic metaphysics is something called the ABC of Scholastic Philosophy by Cotter. Um, in my opinion, he is better than certain authors on espousing complex ideas in a simple manner.
Mm,
Once you read Cotter's book, you'll definitely be familiar with the terms I'm using, and if you just want a definition of what the scholastic terms are, like, or in other words, what the philosophy world calls quote unquote scholastic jargon, then Wellner's Scholastic Dictionary is very good on that.
yeah, that's a good one. I agree. Yeah. Um, So I think if people combine that book with learning about obviously the SA Odd, SAN, they'll understand why divine simplicity and the Trinity are actually compatible. I think Astro, matter of fact, wrote something about it on his Twitter page. If you haven't, guys, I recommend you go to Astro's Twitter, Phonetic Thomist, and read what he wrote on that because I'm pretty sure he has something good on it. But other than that, what else? Is there anything else you want to talk about and touch about this, or would that be like kind of just like the basic endpoint?
Well, so usually the main contention that people have when they say, how can you really say that the Trinity and the divine simplicity are compatible, is that they have this false presupposition that divine simplicity means absolutely no real distinctions, right? Or in
Correct.
other words, that every real distinction leads to some sort of composition. But
Hmm.
that's false, right? So if I do prove that not every real distinction leads to this composition, then really we can move forward and say that they're compatible. There's different arguments other than that that would try to prove that as, but that's a separate conversation.
Hmm.
And I'm willing to talk about the different arguments that the Muslims or the rationalists pose against the Trinity to say that it entails some sort of logical contradiction.
Yeah, yeah. If anyone wants to give objections to what we said, let them know in the comments, and maybe me and Damian or someone else can address them. Because I will say this: if God is not perfectly divine and simple, He's not God. So ADS is or DS is required. Another thing I want to talk about: I don't like when people ask me what's the difference between ADS and DS. It's the same thing. Same thing. You know,
Yeah, this idea that there's a difference between absolute divine simplicity and divine simplicity
it's just
is
ridiculous.
it is ridiculous, and this just comes from diamond circles. There's no either you believe that God is pure act or he's not. If
Exactly.
you believe he's pure act, then good for you. You just believe in something which
Logical.
yeah, you just believe in something which logically entails. But
Right.
if you believe otherwise, then you just simply believe God is composite. There's no middle way to this.
No, there's no middle way. So, I would be interested in seeing anything else. Next time, I think the next video I'll probably make is on. I don't know about the next video, but I want to also work on something against LBT. So, we can expect a video with Damien again, or a Fanatic Mist, or you know.
Yeah, yeah, we can definitely touch on LBT. It's a very I think it's an issue which the consensus of the schoolmen, especially the
Mhm.
scholastics, I think they answered it very well.
I do too. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
answered
definitely
it
do
very well.
that. But for now, this would be. I think it's pretty good. We touched on everything. If you guys have any further questions, just comment them down below, and I'll try to get to you. But yeah, so we learned today the Trinity is not composed. Real distinctions do not oppose divine simplicity. Again, because why? It depends on the real distinction, right? And Damien did give sources to learn more about these things. So if you haven't, subscribe and go subscribe to him too, and try to join Papacy Hub because that's where all the books are at, and you guys can literally ask anything. So that's pretty much it. Um, is there anything you want to say before I end the video?
Yeah. God bless you all. And glory to the Holy Trinity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.